Hello and welcome to Newscentre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Nearly 10,000 people have died in Gaza since Hamas's surprise attack on Israel on the 7th of October and Israel's retaliatory strikes. And Israel continues to pound Gaza. Its military said that it had encircled the city. The army also claimed to have fired at 450 Hamas targets, killing several Hamas militants. In a rare joint statement, the UN humanitarian agencies termed the ongoing conflict as unacceptable and called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. Jordan's military personnel airdropped crucial medical aid to a hospital in Gaza overnight. Jordan's King Abdullah assured support for their Palestinian brethren. Over the weekend, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken made a surprise visit to West Bank and met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to affirm the delivery of humanitarian aid. He also met leaders of Iraq and other Arab countries amid fears that the conflict could spiral into a broader regional one. Blinken met Turkey's foreign minister after President Erdogan declared that he was cutting off contact with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. While in Baghdad, Blinken said that Palestinian voices are key to the future of Gaza.
If you project forward to the future, what we all agree is that in defining that future, in shaping that future for Gaza, for the West Bank, and ultimately for a Palestinian state, Palestinian voices have to be at the center of that. The Palestinian Authority is the representative of those voices, so it's important that it play a leading role.
To take this forward, we're now joined by former ambassador to Saudi Arabia and Oman, Talmiz Ahmad. Ambassador Ahmad, thank you very much for joining us. Israel has been resisting all calls for a ceasefire currently. US at this juncture has also said that a ceasefire can be counterproductive. Do you agree with this stand?
The American position only affirms what we have known for a long time, that the United States is actively complicit in the mass murder that the Israelis have perpetrated upon the people of Palestine, particularly in Gaza. The Americans have no capacity whatsoever to ever tell the Israelis what they believe, what they themselves believe in. They've never done that. If you look at the American record over the last 20 years, it is Israel that has set the agenda and the Americans have followed willy-nilly. As far as the Americans are concerned, their approach is determined by domestic politics. Israel is not a foreign policy issue. It is a domestic matter. Large sections of the American political establishment have so far supported Israel, and obviously the American government goes along with that. Therefore, I reiterate to you that the American posture is absolutely obnoxious, and it only affirms how complicit they are in this mass murder.
Right. Those are very important words from you. But I would also like to ask you about India's stand so far. We have re-emphasized that we stand for the two-state solution. Recently, we abstained on a vote at UN on the Gaza ceasefire because all our concerns were not met. And the wording of the resolution did not incorporate India's stand fully. How do you think about India's stand so far, and how could India be impacted as this war goes on?
This war will have, over time, serious implications for India. But in response to your specific query about what we have been doing so far, I must convey to you a deep sense of disappointment. Our approach has indicated a kind of confusion. The Prime Minister's first remarks appeared to be extremely emotional and guided by a degree of ideological commitment to Israel. So he condemned the Hamas as a terrorist organization. He affirmed to the Prime Minister of Israel that India stands by them, etc. Later on, there was a degree of balance, an attempt at a balance, where the Indian spokesman, while affirming that Hamas is a terrorist organization and also carrying the PM's remarks relating to India's alleged support for Israel, added the point that we support the two-state solution. That was read out like a mantra, and it has very little impact. But what is absolutely astonishing is that India chose to abstain on such an important resolution. It simply asked for a humanitarian truce so that some amount of aid and assistance could be given to those beleaguered people. At the time that resolution was being considered, already 5,000 Palestinians had been killed. And I think that the humanitarian truce, and if India had supported that humanitarian truce, it would have been a very strong message. But India has chosen to sort of exclude itself from the major developments that are taking place. What are the implications of this? I think the first one is very obvious. This attempt during the G20 to suggest that India could possibly be the voice of the so-called global south, I think that as nobody took it seriously then, and you cannot take it seriously now either. India has no interest whatsoever in shaping a posture that would truly indicate that we are interested in the concerns of the global south. With regard to our own role, again, I must share disappointment. India has a very deep and long relationship with this region. We also have very substantial ties with Israel. We are a voice that is actually respected in the region. But what we have done is systematically erode this confidence in our position. And therefore, over a period of time, more and more people in West Asia believe that we are guided by domestic considerations of domestic politics, rather than having any interest in the strategic
Right.
scenario prevailing in our neighborhood.
Right. When you speak about the humanitarian crisis and what the Palestinians have been going through, clearly there is a catastrophe on the ground. There are thousands, 40, 50,000 Palestinians who are injured, who are in hospitals in Gaza. Massive stress on the injured, massive stress on women and children. If this humanitarian crisis goes on as it is, and we're continuously getting report that Israel is not allowing fuel into Gaza, what could this human crisis actually lead to in the coming days, or any kind of escalation that may result out of this crisis?
See, you have rightly referred to this as a catastrophe. The UN, all the UN organizations concerned with relief and humanitarian assistance have also spoken out very strongly in this regard. Let us first understand what the Israelis are up to. This has been a very serious political and military failure as far as Israel is concerned. So what you are looking at now, this massive assault upon Gaza and the mass killing that is taking place, is really speaking an attempt on the part of the political and military leadership to save their skin, to tell the Israeli people that we have retaliated on your behalf. This is therefore a battle for political and military survival. It has nothing to do with any military objectives whatsoever. What is Israel seeking as I speak to you? It is seeking to achieve its kill rate of 1 to 10. That they believe in a kill rate, that every time an Israeli is killed, there should be 10 Palestinians killed at the minimum. So this time there has been a horrendous crisis. 1,400 Israelis have been killed. 14,000 Palestinians have to be killed. They have reached the number 10. They have reached 10,000 already, but they have some way to go. So that is the first thing. Secondly, to truly explain to the Israeli people that we have avenged you, you need to kill a certain number of top leaders. So these two things are happening at the same time. The mass killing that is taking place is being explained on the basis that one or two Hamas leaders may have been lurking somewhere in the vicinity. Therefore, yesterday they killed 110 Palestinians in some small neighborhood, destroyed all the buildings in that neighborhood, killed 110 people because they said they had information about one Hamas commander. We have no information whether that has actually been achieved or not. But this is their mindset. But what really motivates them is this extraordinary sense of cruelty that kill as many of these people as possible. I am embarrassed and ashamed because as a student of history, I recall that this was the mistreatment that the Jewish people suffered for 2,000 years in Europe, and they have learned no lesson from that. They are giving the same treatment to their Palestinian cousins, even as I speak to you.
Right. Strong views there. And many, and even President Obama has said that there are issues on both sides of the table. There is no one view on the subject. That is the word coming in from American President Barack Obama. But Ambassador Ahmad, if I were to ask you about the position of different Middle Eastern countries, it seems that the world is divided, sharply divided. Middle Eastern nations are very upset with Israel, including the UAE, also Saudi Arabia, especially in light of a statement made by one minister in the Israel government who has now been suspended for saying that dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza is a possibility. Do you think all the talk, all the effort towards a rapprochement between Israel and Saudi Arabia has now been derailed?
I'm not sure if it is delayed. Maybe it's been delayed or postponed. We have to go slowly here. There is, as far as West Asia is concerned, a deep divide in the popular opinion and the opinion of the leaderships. The leaderships tend to be cynical, they tend to be self-centered, and they tend to look after their own interests. There is a conflation between royal family interest and the interests of the nation. But their own people's opinion is so strongly felt, and it is so well articulated that no leader, however authoritarian he might be, will ever go against the wishes of his people. The Saudis had gone quite far in building up a roadmap for reconciliation with Israel and setting up diplomatic ties. In that sense, this particular initiative came at a very bad time, and that process has been now indefinitely postponed. It is very difficult in such circumstances to move forward. What the Palestinians have wanted, what the Israelis have wanted consistently is to normalize ties with the Arab states without doing anything about the Palestinians. What this particular conflict has reminded us, once again, it's not the first conflict, it's the fifth conflict between Israel and Gaza, between Israel and Hamas over the last, from 2008 onward. So it's the fifth one. It's a reminder that every time Israel, the United States, and certain Arab states begin to believe that you can normalize relations within the region and without doing anything about the Palestinians, I think there is a rude reminder that this is not going to happen. You have to address the Palestinian issue. This is not something that the Israelis would want to do at all. And this is not anything that the Americans ever pushed them into doing over the last 2 decades. But this is where you finally have to go.
Right. So there is a clear demand to make sure that the Palestinian issue is addressed to its logical conclusion. I'd like to ask you about a report in Arab News as well, Ambassador Ahmad. And this is about Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah saying that Israel and US will suffer if this war rages on. He even went on to say that the US sending its fleet, its ammunition, its military support to Israel will have no use if this war escalates, and the Israel war must be stopped on Gaza. How serious a warning is this, and what are the risks here of a regional escalation?
The various players in the region are treating the region as a chessboard on which they make different moves. So every time you hear a statement and a counter statement, you know that the game is on. If you ask me, I don't believe that anyone in the region, Israel, Iran, Hezbollah, or Syria, would like the conflict to escalate. What is the reason? Because there will be massive bloodletting, huge bombardment, lots of killing, but it will lead nowhere. This is the pattern of military conflict, that you go on and on in terms of your fighting, but unless the other side is totally exterminated and its military power broken down, you don't have any solution. So there is no military solution as far as West Asia is concerned. I think Hezbollah knows that. What the Americans had done within a few days of the conflict, they moved their aircraft carrier into the East Mediterranean, signaling to Iran and Hezbollah that they would not want the conflict to expand. You also see their Secretary of State running from one capital to another, one meeting to another, looking like a lost babe in the wood. He has very little to say with regard to the conflict that is raging. He is constantly going to various people and counseling them, please, please, please ensure that this fight doesn't expand and that others are not involved and don't get involved. Hezbollah has made a very strong statement.
Right.
Hezbollah militarily is stronger than Hamas. It is said to have 150,000 rockets. And as you know, Hamas has 50,000 rockets. Within the first few hours, 5,000 of their rockets penetrated the Iron Dome that now needs urgent repairs. So you could have a very ugly scenario if the fight would expand. So what is the big thing that is going on now? Israel says you release the hostages, until then we will continue bombardment. They know this is a non-starter and they don't want the fight to end. But nobody wants the fight to escalate. And this is where the Americans come in. If the Americans were to have the courage to tell Netanyahu publicly and strongly, stop the conflict, only then will you be really assured that this will not expand. Till then, we are at the edge of uncertainty. We don't know. And you could see, because of American cowardice and Israeli vengefulness, you could have a scenario that you could have a war that no one wants. Do recall here, First World War. We just walked into the First World War and it went on for 4 or 5 years and killed millions of people. That is how regional conflicts expand and become global conflicts.
Very important there, as you said, for the United States to stand up and tell Israel to stop this war. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ahmad, to join us with those views. We are heading into a short break at this point, but coming up, Big Tech's deepfake problem is in the spotlight yet again after a viral video of actor Rashmika Mandana has been identified as digitally altered by artificial intelligence. A discussion with N.S. Napinai of Cyber Saathi Foundation when we are back.